Okay, how many requests do we have for lighting? Like, is there anything else that groups want? They want me. Yeah, no. I mean, I'm pretty sure we haven't been that which is lighting, but have we not like spent I know.
This meeting is a 102nd session of the Clark Undergraduate Student Council will come to order. Rebecca, roll call, please.
Andrew?
Here.
Rory?
Here.
Rebecca? Here. Raymond?
Here.
Julia?
Here.
Sally?
Here.
Jennifer?
Here.
Aaron?
Here.
Will?
Here.
Tyler?
Here.
Scott?
Here.
Shaylin?
Here.
Rebecca?
Here.
Delight?
Here.
Hannah?
Here.
Sandy? Radhika? Brittany?
Here.
Alex?
Here.
Savannah?
Here.
Lauren?
Here.
Ellen? Kevin?
Here.
Nick?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next, we'll be moving into the reading of the minutes from last week's meeting. Are there any motions on the floor? Will?
I move to waive the reading of the minutes.
There's a motion on the floor to waive the reading of the minutes. Is there a second? Second by Hannah. Questions to the wording or points of discussion? Seeing that there are none, we're moving to voting. All those in favor of waiving the reading of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing as such, this motion passes. Next, we'll be moving into the approval of the minutes. Are there any such motions on the floor? Hannah?
I move to approve.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Second by Will. Questions to the wording or points of discussion? Seeing none, we're moving to voting. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing as such, this motion passes. Next, we'll be moving into public comments. Are there any public comments at this time? First off, I'd just like to thank everybody who participated in the Clark Student Council Harlem Shake video. We got 1,200 hits on YouTube so far, so that's pretty impressive. Alright, so next we'll be moving into financial matters with the grants committee report. Aaron?
Yeah, motion to allocate $2,600 out of the equipment fund to Clark Musical Theater. This is for an entire new writing system. Kevin McKenna's already put up quite a bit of money. I think $10,000 was the amount Kevin put up. And the rest is the 2,600 to cover the remaining amount that Kevin can cover. They're getting the lights used, but still in like very good condition, and it will obviously benefit the whole Clark community and will be around for a while. Chris is here. If you guys have any questions, if you want to speak on it.
So there's a motion on the floor to allocate $2,600 from the equipment fund to Clark Musical Theater. Is there a second? Second by Julia. Are there any questions to the wording or points of discussion? You meant Mike McKenna, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, just making sure. I was a little curious. All right. So are there any other points of discussion? Hannah?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there a request for a lighting system like a little while back, specifically for CMC?
Yeah, I think that was for different. It was not the full lighting system. Chris might know more about this. I don't think it was for entire replacement. I think it was for different, so they can do different like shades. It was basically for light installments that we make. make plays different, better. I'm not sure.
Lauren?
There was money requested not too long ago for, it was requested by CUPS, Clark University Players Society. They requested it for lighting for the Little Center. This is lighting, that is for Atwood, purely for Atwood.
Mike?
Do they have a breakdown?
Yeah, I do. 12 lights, cabling boards, accessories for 2,600. Typically would cost around. Typically would cost around here are the specs for this word very strangely. Chris, if you do want to speak on it.
Yes, it is a full package deal. It's 12 lights, cabling, light board, and road containers for them. It's a 2,600 as opposed to the, if we bought it new, it would be 12,000 or so.
Are there any other points of discussion? Seeing that there are none, we will be moving into voting. All those in favor of allocating $2,600 from the equipment fund to Clark Musical Theater, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing as such, this motion passes. Aaron?
I move to allocate $1,900 out of quarter 4 to Just Do It Day. They initially requested $2,073, but as kind of protocol, we haven't been granting money for t-shirts. We have a lot of t-shirt requests and usually ask for clubs to either go through another fund or go through their own budget to cover t-shirts, because oftentimes we just think it's not necessarily excessive, but we kind of want to focus on the things that are going to make the event completely possible instead of extras. So we took that out, and I mean, Just Do It Day is fantastic and something we've done in the past several years, I believe. And Jenny's here as well, if you want to speak on any of the finer details.
Sure. So the money that we're asking for is mostly going towards supplies and transportation. The supplies we try to get as much as we can from physical plant or the sites that we're volunteering at, and we do reuse the supplies we can. But since we are doing a lot of work in Maine South and outside, we want to make sure that our volunteers are protected so they have whatever correct supplies they need. So that's where most of the money's going. We also use some of the money for like water and snacks. They're volunteering for the entire afternoon, and it's a rain or shine event. So last year, I don't know if any of you volunteered, but it was pretty cold out, so we used some of it to get hot chocolate. One of the other years it was really warm, so we used it to make sure that everyone had access to water. So those are the two big components of where that funding is going.
Becca?
Will not funding the whole request deter anything from the day?
I think we'll be okay with it. We're cutting down or like scaling back a little bit on Just Do It Day. I don't know if you guys have the layout of the budget, but last year we expected 225 people. This time we're budgeting for about 175. There is a few components that went into how many people actually showed up, but we figured we'd rather have a few sites that have a lot of volunteers than too many sites that are not filled, because we want to represent Clark as best we can in the community. So we'll be okay with that.
Aaron?
It's not on the Reddit, but in the email I suggested that Jenny apply for the PCF fund as well. If t-shirts were very necessary, because that, I think it was close to, yeah, $300 would more than cover it.
Shaylin?
Just making sure that whatever they request has to be stuff that goes towards on-campus portions of Just Do It Day versus off-campus, because I know most of the day is off-campus, but we're supposed to fund on-campus sort of stuff.
Sure. So we do have a couple of sites on campus and sites that are related to campus, such as the Clark Recycling Center. And University Park is right across the street, so while it's not officially on campus, it's a place that a lot of students live near, so it is, I consider it a Clark area. And then the food and hydration, I guess that could be considered on campus. I'm not sure.
So are there any other points of discussion? Seeing that there are none, we will be moving to voting. All those in favor? So the motion on the floor is to allocate $1,900 from quarter 4. Is there a second? Second by Hannah. Questions to the wording or points of discussion? Seeing that there are none, we'll be moving to voting. All those in favor of allocating $1,900 from quarter 4 to Just Do It Day, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? 1 abstention. Seeing as such, this motion passes.
I move to allocate $330 out of 33 to club basketball. They have their last game this weekend at Brown. It's a little round robin tournament. The money will be for gas, $180 for gas and $150 for food. We wanted to cover food and we did food waiver as well. Because it's their last tournament, this is their first year, and we kind of wanted to make kind of their last game as easy as possible and kind of a little celebration deal. So Jake's here as well, if you want to talk to him.
Yeah, we got invited to play a round robin tournament at Brown this weekend. We're playing Brown and Yale. So we have 2 back-to-back games. So the money's going to be used for snacks and water for the games and in between the games, and then maybe like some pizzas after the game, because we're going to be away from 12 in the afternoon to about 7 at night, just kind of like stuck in the gym. And the money for transportation will be Clark vans plus the cost for gas, which we've used before.
So the motion on the floor is to allocate $330 from quarter 3 with a food waiver to club basketball. Is there a second? Second by Julia. Are there any questions to the wording or points of discussion? Ray?
Just a question.
Yeah.
Did you guys ask the Clark's athletic department for any of the funding?
No. We haven't.
Typically Sean doesn't really give money to club sports. It's kind of been pretty explicit in the past with saying that the budget is basically filled up with varsity sports and club sports and have on their own. So I mean, we've got club lacrosse on us and club basketball and club soccer. So usually when they need funding, they come to us.
Are there any other points of discussion? Hannah?
Do they need like a 2-week waiver?
Catherine, they need a 2-week waiver. If it's, I guess, supposed to be this weekend. So they need a 2-week waiver as well.
Hannah?
I'm going to amend my request to include a 2-week waiver.
Alright, so there's a motion on the floor to include a 2-week waiver. Is there a second? Second by Will. Questions to the wording or points of discussion? Seeing that there are none, we're moving to voting. All those in favor of including a 2-week waiver with regards to this request, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing as such, this motion passes. So next we'll be moving into the main motion. Are there any other points of discussion? Julia?
I have a question, I guess for Jake. It says here that Aaron wasn't present for your grants committee meeting. Did you by any chance ask them why they chose not to grant you the full request?
Did I ask?
Or did they tell you or something?
Yeah. I asked. Yeah.
I can be forget. He asked initially for, I think it was $220.
Yeah.
It would have been $15 a player, and that's something for soccer. Especially, I think we usually get $8 a player, and what we usually do, just to make it a bit cheaper, is get a bunch of pizzas and have pizzas split between 2 players. So I mean, there's 17 players. If they got 9 pizzas at $12, it'd be like a little over $100, and that'd be $45 left for snacks. So I just thought that $20 might be a bit excessive for food, especially just for a one-day event. But we wanted to definitely satisfy the request for food.
Alright, are there any other points of discussion? Seeing that there are none, we'll be moving to voting. All those in favor of allocating $330 from quarter 3 with a food waiver and a 2-week waiver, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing as such, this motion passes. Okay.
A motion to actually table this request because there's a misunderstanding in the amount that we recommended initially is not the amount they asked for at all. They asked for $5,000, and in the write-up it was 575%. And somehow when we were talking about it in the meeting and we were talking about it after, that kind of got mixed up because that was their full request. So although we don't usually table requests, and it's a bit annoying, just in order to make sure that they get the it's kind of an alternative spring break event in New Orleans where the University Christian Fellowship will be doing various types of community service. And I mean, we want to make sure that we give them a sufficient amount of money, and this definitely won't be sufficient amount of money. And seeing as the event isn't until spring break, I think we would have enough time to reschedule the meeting and grant you guys what you need. So.
We actually don't have to vote on that if you're not making any motions to introduce the request, then there's no need to table anything.
Okay.
So we can discuss it movies ahead. Rory?
Is there a person from, so I just want to double check, is that, like, that's not going to mess up your plans to, like, it's still a possibility if we table it till next week?
Yeah, well, the event is on March 1st.
Okay.
If we move the request until next week, is that still, and do a 2-week waiver, is that going to get the money to you in time, or?
I believe so.
Okay.
Will?
Katie, will that get there if it's approved next Wednesday? Will they be able to get the money before they go? Because they said March 1st and March 1st will be a Saturday.
I have no idea who they're planning to pay with this money. I don't know if they're paying an outside organization, if they need to pay for flights, if they need to pay for hotels. So I don't know if we'll be able to pay for those items in time, but they will have access to the money as soon as you grant it to them. So it's not a matter, there's no question of them having access to the money in time. That's not a problem. I just don't know what they're planning to purchase with the money and if the timeline would impact that.
Next one.
Yeah, a motion to allocate $1,789 to STARS, and 385 of it will be allocated to and 1,000 for the battle for the four. The reason it's split up is they are first mentioning to stand in the dance-a-thon, and the $385 will be directly towards the dance-a-thon this weekend. So we also need to do it. And the rest of the request goes, STARS is a new group, Student Action for Refugees, and they do a lot with Lutheran Christian services. And basically what the budget will go towards is they're doing an art program and various other things on campus with refugees and possibly a soccer event. So I mean it's a great group. And they've already done quite a bit and they don't have a budget, so this would just kind of satisfy what they need to get through the year. Sarah as well is here. If you want to speak on some of the final things.
Yeah, I mean, the money that we're asking for the immediate would be, well, the smaller amount. I'm not entirely sure the number that you broke it down into, but the stuff for the dance-a-thon, 300 of it would go towards the screening rights for a film that we're actually planning on showing tomorrow night that discusses an event that occurred with Somali refugees actually up in Maine. So we wanted to bring it more towards a realistic level to get out awareness to students, and so far it looks like we're going to have decent turnout. And also the school would have the screening rights for the rest of the time, so they don't have to worry about that in the future. I know other professors have looked into using that movie in the past as well. The stuff for the dance-a-thon would be like the registration costs for the dancers involved, which covers everything at the event, so food and all the different activities, including the BSU dance that's part of the dance-a-thon as well. We included a food budget in that as well, just some snacks for the screening tomorrow night, and anything that's extra would be used probably for the dance-a-thon itself. That would be shared with all of the dancers. The larger amount of the budget is primarily for the art program, which I'll talk about in a moment. There's a smaller amount in there for a conference that we are actually just invited to at Brown, which is going to be run by the equivalent, basically, organization at Brown. And it's going to bring university student leaders from around the country in to talk
talk primarily about refugee issues, and it's only going to bring those leaders that work with refugee kids especially. So talk about education reform and the best way to go through tutoring or projects, how to best engage them, but also be better leaders and take more charge with these programs. That the only amount for that would be transportation costs, which I believe was approximately $100, so that's for all 5 of us to get to Providence and back. And then a $75 registration group registration fee. So that's the only costs that are going to cost us at the conference. Brown covers all of the housing and food through that $75 registration fee. And we hope that that'll really help us, especially since we're a new group, to try and reach out more. And then the art program is something that we were approached by a couple art students that wanted to get engaged with refugee youth. A lot of it we've already reached out to a lot of the community, and last spring we had a day where we brought in a bunch of refugee youth from all different backgrounds and kind of just asked them what they wanted mostly. And a lot of them really just wanted some kind of place to get together, show creativity, and just kind of have a place for them to connect, because a lot of organizations are more based for adults getting to know each other, getting help with stuff that they need. So we wanted to give kids a resource to reach out to others that have been through similar situations as them, and they aren't just surrounded by everyone at school and kind of lost. And so the art program, the funding is such a large amount because we're looking to provide each of the students with their own materials for different projects. We're looking at about 15 students right now. The goal for having them each have their own equipment is so that the project can be more sustainable, because it would be only a weekly program, and this way they can work on their artwork outside of just the program, and also over the summer when we're not here. We really want to be able to pick it up and expand it more in the fall, especially once we get a more annual budget and have half of our members that are abroad right now come back and help us run those programs. So yeah, that's pretty much what that's for.
The motion on the floor is to allocate $1,789, $385 of it from quarter 3 and $1,404 from quarter 4. Is there a second? Second by Julia. Are there any other questions to the wording or points of discussion? Alright. Seeing that there are none, we'll be moving into voting. All those in favor of allocating $385 from quarter 3 and $1,404 from quarter 4 to STARS, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing as such, this motion passes. Anything else for that? Awesome, thanks. Alright, so next we're moving down the agenda into the finance committee report. Scott?
So everyone in the finance committee has been working hard on audits, and we will be presenting it to you next week for a break. That's all.
Alright, so next we'll be moving down the agenda to the organizational committee report. Shilin?
All right, so we had 6 PCF requests between last meeting and this one. So just a quick rundown, we gave everyone $300. Chai asked for money for their falafel event for Peace Week. Educational Splash asked for the money for the guest Wi-Fi that they found out about. CCN asked for money for an Oscars party that they're going to hold in Tilton. I believe Stand asked for money for the dance-a-thon, maybe? I'm not completely sure. Economic Society wanted to do a screening. And then Pub Entertainment Committee asked for something that I can't remember, but it was also $300. That was it. And then I don't know if Sammy, you had anything about transportation.
The buses, as of now, they're being booked for spring break, and we're looking into different vehicles of getting shuttles to Union Station, but don't be wishing on that for this semester. But we're working very hard on creating something for this spring break, but there's going to be definitely Boston buses on Friday and Saturday. So I'll keep you guys all posted on those timings.
Alright, that's awesome to hear. I'm really excited to see that after, especially after how much success the initiative had during winter break. Alright, So next we're moving into the judiciary committee report. Nick?
So for today's, all of you should have received from Andrew elections from internal procedures. So I would recommend someone to will make a motion to approve it. It's up to you to discuss.
Will?
I move to approve the elections internal procedures.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor to approve the elections committee internal procedures. Is there a second? Seconded by Scott. Are there any questions to the wording or points of discussion? Rory?
So it's my understanding that there were actually quite a few substantial changes. We get them out. You took them out? You didn't?
Yeah.
Oh, well, never mind.
Nick?
The elections committee decided to implement some changes, but they were unconstitutional, so so in order to improve internal procedures today, which is horribly late, I agree, but in that case I removed those clauses which caused all unconstitutionality, so it should be okay to vote on this. And I want to meet with elections committee later to discuss those changes. So we'll hear more about that later.
Alex?
Are we supposed to have read this? What is this? Like,
we emailed out the elections committee internal procedures yesterday.
Oh, that's a mistake.
But there aren't any drastic changes.
Okay.
So it's no reason to alarm.
All right, thank you.
All right. So all those in favor of approving the elections committee's internal procedures, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. Seeing as such, this motion passes. Nick, do you have anything else to report? All right, sounds great. All right, so next we'll be moving into moving into internal business with the operational report. First off, I'd just like to thank Brittany for the time that she spent down in the grind this past Saturday. We had, it was a really cool opportunity to work at the Admitted Students Open House, Student Club Fair. So we got to meet a lot of prospective students, and a lot of them seem pretty interested in council. So looking forward to all the new potential candidates that we could have next year. So it's really fun to see. Also, just the other thing that we're working on right now, working with the E-Board and members of the Finance Committee to rework the wording of the bookkeeper bylaw. And we'll be presenting that for approval, and the Finance Committee will be determining a way to fund that in the weeks ahead. So you guys will be hearing more about that. All right. Next we'll be moving into the Vice President's report. Rory?
Nothing to report.
All right. So next we're moving into the Treasurer's report, right?
Nothing to report.
Right. Next we're moving into the Secretary's report. Rebecca?
We had our student council meetings today, but I'll let Hannah talk more about that. And besides that, nothing to report.
All right, so next we're moving into the Elections Committee report. Rebecca?
So we just had elections committee internal procedures for elections committee debate, but I guess Hannah will talk more about that. And so now that that's occurred, the next thing that we have are elections. So I guess just be on the lookout, because we're going to be posting all over Facebook, and just keep spreading the word for people to be voting.
All right, so next we're moving into the communications report. Hannah?
Okay, as Andrew said, we have 1,200 views from our video from 30 countries, but that didn't really translate into a large turnout for the debate. So hopefully we're gonna amp up the advertising and actually have a decent turnout for the elections themselves. And also we went through the comments from CUSC Council, and there were a few specific things that I wanted to mention. There are a lot of comments specifically about the bus schedules, bus times, different buses to like Hartford. I have a list of those that I will pass on to the organizational committee. And then there were also 2 interesting comments about earlier and later CAF and library times, and also students wanting more non-work study jobs. So I don't know what capacity we have to help facilitate those wishes, but it would be, if there's anyone who would like to move forward with that.
Katie.
The library, if somebody is taking that on, you would talk to Gwen Arthur. The CAF, if someone's taking that on, you would talk to Heather Valiette. And the work study stuff, I'd have to get back to you. I know it's out of, oh gosh, Jim's office? Maybe Jack's office. I think it's Jim's office. But I don't know exactly who the work study person is. He's the vice president. So I want to start with him, but I can find out who that person would be for you.
Okay. And then also, Mike has made a survey that students can submit like very specific comments about buses being late, buses not showing up, so that can kind of facilitate that process a little bit more and make it more efficient. And so hopefully we will launch that in the next.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I made a bus complaint form. The #1 thing, I think Katie mentioned it a few months ago maybe, that the bus companies want to hear specific, like on this day, this particular stop, this happened, instead of this bus is always late, this bus is whatever. So the form has the date, the time, these are all required, and a description of what happened. And we're in the process of deciding what should we do with the information, but at least we'll have it to somehow translate to the bus company. So we may send it to you to send out to your constituents soon, so hopefully you guys can do that. We have a limit of 100 submissions, so make sure that to only submit it if you know exactly what time, a good description of something significant that happened. So, Katie.
If you want to come talk to me, we can put it into the university survey system, so there's no limit on submissions, which might be helpful in that regard. And yes, that is true regarding the bus complaints, that I can't do a lot with, the bus was late at some point 3 Fridays ago, maybe it was Saturday. But if I have, on January 1st, the bus was supposed to pick up at 2:30, didn't show up till 3:30, that's something much more workable in terms of communicating with the bus company. I will encourage you in your dissemination of the survey to remind your constituents that some leeway should be allowed, particularly in the wintertime, when there's snow falling from the sky, as that may impact the bus time. We were getting a lot of feedback that last Saturday, was that the day it snowed, the bus was late every time. So do keep that in mind, because there are many more obstacles in terms of the bus keeping schedule, especially in the winter when there's snow and ice and all sorts of craziness. But if there are real issues, the bus did, stop running at 8 instead of 10, that stuff, if I have specific information that I can give to the bus company, they can then follow up with their drivers and make sure that doesn't happen in the future.
Moving on, we also were working on advertising PCF requests a little more, and hopefully we want to work with the club specifically, and then also put out like cap slides and stuff like that, so that people know that they exist, how much they're for, and who to contact. And then we also put up a bulletin board in the CAF this week, so we are hoping that there will be a club of the month, so we can put it on that board. And that is everything.
Alright, great. Alright, so next we're moving into unfinished business. Seeing that we already discussed that, the time frame for this is that the e-board is working with finance to rewrite the bookkeeper bylaw. It's projected to be finished by either Friday or Saturday. We'll then send it to the judiciary for approval, and hopefully we can vote on it next Wednesday. Moving forward from that, we'll be moving into new business. So Sally and Sammy came to E-Board this past Monday to request $15,000 for a big, to get a big name performer for a concert on Spree Day. On behalf of the E-Board, the E-Board is going to initially recommend an allocation of $7,000. We felt that with the fact that the performer was unknown, and seeing that it's a large investment for an event that covers a short period of time, we would initially recommend a lower allocation than to allocate the full amount. Mike,
what does unknown mean?
It's
Is it a mystery?
It's not mystery.
Right, we'll get into that. You don't worry about asking questions right now.
It just seems really weird.
So, Alex, what is are we just right now, I'm sorry, can you just go over what this means then?
Right.
This is actually.
Rory.
So I move to allocate $7,000 from the cumulative surplus to Sally and Spree Day.
Right,
Just for Sally, yeah, Spree Day.
So what's going to happen here is that we're going to make an initial motion so that we can then move into a discussion on the matter, because the most fruitful discussion that we can have is one with some sort of substance allocation, recommendation on the table.
Right.
Otherwise, we're just throwing out numbers and having a discussion, and it's not going to go anywhere really fast. So the motion on the floor is to allocate $7,000 to the Spree Day Committee. Is there a second? Second by Tyler. Are there any questions to the wording or points of discussion? This is where Sally or Sammy, if you guys would like to interject.
Alright, so we need three guys because, well, we want to pull them out obviously. And this was all taken by the office, so. And yeah, well, this the t-shirt is gonna say "Teach me how to spree," and it's a great design. So, but that's not what it's about right now. So the reason why we need $15,000 is because the list of artists that you guys see on here is $30,000. If we get the full amount, we guarantee that one of these names will be performing at Spree Day. We had a meeting with President Andrew yesterday, and he's very for having an artist perform. We haven't had something like this at Spree Day for a while, at least the 3 years I've been here. We feel that after the commotion of are we going to change Spree Day to a weekend or not, and everybody getting angry and stuff like that, this will be a good surprise for everyone to have. And this list of artists is very, I think it's a great list of people to perform. And this is basically the budget breakdown of where our money's going.
Alright, so we're gonna try to make Spree Day the more traditional way route, making it surprise and having different things. For example, should we tell them to change the date?
The camera right
Sorry.
Our theme is Teach Me How to Spree, obviously. It's a music theme. We're going with trying to get a big artist like this, but also we'll have DJ around Spree Day spending music the whole time. We are changing the date. It's going to be either Tuesday or Wednesday, so you guys know that now.
Do you want me to bleep that out? I mean,
What?
Do you want me to X that out?
Keep it in.
Okay,
It's
cool.
fine.
Just making sure.
So it's just that, we want this to be a great Spree Day after what has happened. So we need the full 15 in order to book one of these artists. it's really hard to just work with half of it, because if we have half, this thing would just be out the window. You wouldn't be able to do something like this, and I think that the Clark community really appreciate that.
By maximizing it to like the full 15, we actually have enough more money to like spend on hospitality, giving the students more free things, novelties, have more fun games. We're trying to get rid of the inflatables, have more community-based activity like color wars, like have the seniors versus the freshmen or faculty versus the students. You know, more of that, more inter-community activity. So like everyone's participating, everyone is actually having a good time. And we're just trying to make sure everything is more fun-based activity-wise, so that, and also food-wise too. We're trying to amp it up a bit. We're trying to make sure the music with the DJs playing music all on the campus is to like make sure it's different types of music that suits everyone all around campus.
And also just like, we feel personally, in order for an artist to come and perform, it's either go big or why not do it at all. So in order to have a big artist like this perform, we have to have a great stage, we have to have a great sound system, we have to have people to help them out as well too, and the generator. So it's just like, if we don't have one component, the other doesn't really work. So.
And also a lot of the cost also goes into staffing. We have to remember that we have to pay UP, EMS, and other avenues to make sure everything's facilitated properly. Or a huge buck, at least $6,000, goes to paying for staffing to make sure there's, you know, a decent amount of like police checks and the EMS is, you know, there to help any students who need help.
Becca.
So you mentioned that this would be coming from cumulative surplus. So where does that money lie? Like how much is there?
Katie.
So cumulative surplus is a fund that money, if it is unspent from a previous year, rolls into. Your cumulative, I hate that word because I can never say it correctly. Your cumulative surplus is currently at $81,000 plus or minus a few hundred. So how cumulative surplus works is your first $50,000 is your base. You're not supposed to spend it, it's supposed to be there in case of dire emergency. The next $15,000 on top of that is determined is for programming. It doesn't define programming, but you know, it's a broad term. In the past, it's been used to help fund Spree Day when you had Gusler here a few years ago. It was used for the Woo Bus when he did that. Last year, you used it for City Ride. Programming can mean any number of things, but that 15 is for programming. Whatever's left after that is for what are called capital expenditures. So that's what y'all did the application process for last year. It's been used for a variety of things. So if you were to give them 15, you would still have 15,000 left. That 15 would go into the programming portion. So like once you spend the top 15, it trickles down. So you always have 50,000, 15 for programming, and then whatever's left on top of that is for capital expenditure.
Also, another thing is, I don't know if you guys remember, but each year, Spree Day kind of just is like around 2 o'clock. It's kind of just like, all right, it's over. People go do their own thing. Our vision is to book an artist and make it the end of Spree Day. So we kind of be like, bam, here's the artist, enjoy it, and then Spree Day's over, you know, instead of just like, all right, here's some cotton candy, Spree Day's over, you know.
Tyler.
What's like the variance on pricing of these artists?
All these artists are 25 to 30, but we had a meeting today, and all of them are $30,000. So this is why we really need this.
Mike.
So if we were to allocate 7,000, what would you do with that? Like that's, you know, if you didn't get the 1,500, how would that affect?
All right, so we got like, so President Angel agreed to help sponsor the lunch.
We'll use it probably towards other, we'll come up with a plan B for another type of entertainment.
Because the current allocation is 7,000, so I'm saying if it doesn't get increased, what happens?
Then we wouldn't be able to get one of these artists. Is that what you're trying to ask?
To further explain the executive board's recommendation on this, the first thought was that, if we, initially, approach this with, recommending a lower amount, was that we could also find, that hopefully the Spring Day Committee could then work to find, funding through other avenues, through the President's office, through, the athletics department, anything like that. The other thought is that also, we have to consider long-term how this affects, the other expenditures that we have coming up. We have the student life bookkeeper, coming up in, the subsequent weeks, so we have to consider, where that funding will come from as well. So we have to consider, our spending long-term. So yeah, those were the two things that we considered when we gave this, the lower recommendation. Will?
So I guess I think what Mike was asking is, if we say yes to the $7,000, what are the possibilities for entertainment? And then if you actually get the $15,000, what would then be the possibilities for entertainment?
Okay.
What you have on the sheet is for if you get the 15, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, I know, I feel like this is also important because this is an event that is all Clark community, and so I feel like it's also a bigger deal. It's just not like a small club asking for funding for Jersey or something. This is actually affecting everyone. And when we spoke to President Angel, we wanted to make it more of a community-wide day as well. So also putting on a concert will draw in some community as well to come, and they can check it out too, and bring in more people and more grad students and more faculties.
Alex?
I don't know most of these acts. Are we risking on the White Panda if you get fits in the tantrums? Do you know that people will show up to this and appreciate the acts?
We just know that one out of this list, whoever it is, I think a lot of people will appreciate it and come.
Tyler?
So y'all know, minus the Bear Manchester Orchestra, pretty.
Yeah.
Our focus is more of it's just to bring in someone well-known. That's the main thing. It's not, yes.
Nick?
Are you going to send out some type of survey to ask major community what they want to hear, rather than getting a list of artists of different genres? And as we know, Clark is diverse community, and as international, I would say less people know about those bands. They're not so popular outside of US probably. And are you trying to get some feedback from community before making a deal with some of the artists, or you're just gonna go and choose one which would fit your Spring Day committee this year?
You want to come there or do you want me?
Go because we're designing a survey. So yeah, we asked Mike to send out a survey with the questions about location, the timing,
But we haven't done anything yet because we wanted to see if we'll get the money first before we put it out there and get everyone excited about it, and then we don't have the money to book an artist.
Rebecca?
I would like to say that what was mentioned in the E-Board meeting was that they were going to look at a list and they were going to pick the final artist who was going to play between the Spring Day Committee, so everyone knows.
Savannah?
But right now, we're only discussing whether or not to allocate the 7,000, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was.
Becca?
Sorry. We were talking about for the artists, so the money that we get allocated is going to the music. And as student council, we represent our constituents, so we should always think in best mindset for what the people who we're representing want.
So let's say the survey comes out and they get a very positive response for one of these artists. Could they make another request, for instance, next week, because all of a sudden they know that the entire Clark committee would want a certain person?
Katie?
At this point in the world of timeline, they need to know as soon as possible if they're able to move forward on a large scale artist, for a large scale artist. We're about 3 weeks behind the curve on Spring Day. And Sally's completely right, they're not gonna send out this list of bands until they know if they can have one of these bands, because If they do that before they know they have it and they don't get the money, then it's a whole nother problem. So, as Sally just mentioned, if they do secure the $15,000 from y'all, they are going to send out a survey to the students regarding the act as well as a number of other factors. If they only get 7, this list is completely out the window and they will have to start from scratch. There is no way that they would be able to have anybody on this list if they get less than $15,000.
And everything we've been doing, we've been trying to include our community. We created a Facebook page, we've been updating it, and we've been sending out surveys of location and stuff. But like I said, we can't send this list out yet unless we have the money, because we're not trying to upset anyone right
now. Andrew mentioned alternate funding for the other $7,000 to $8,000 you need. Have you inquired about that, and how has it gone?
Well, we got the president to
Well,
sponsor.
it's to sponsor food, but there's also a lot into Spree Day that costs money. For example, like Sammy said, $6,000 alone going to UP tomorrow for Spree Day. That's a huge chunk of our budget that is just for UP that you guys are not going to use. It's not like, well, it is for safety, but it's not like food or something like that.
So in Spree Day, we have a budget of $40,000. So hypothetically speaking, we get $30,000 for an artist, we have $10,000 left. But then if the president sponsors the lunch, we have an extra $10,000. And then if we get, hypothetically speaking, $15,000 from student council, we have $25,000 left. But then we have to pay like at least $6,000 to $7,000 for staffing, which would leave us up to $19,000 left. And those 19, yeah, it would go into probably getting more things, like for example, we can at least secure that we're going to have more activities, better food or whatnot, and like other entertainment facilities, like the novelties, like the concession stands, they also cost money, so it's like another $10K over there. And then for the prizes for bingo, it's like another, yeah.
Julia.
Andrew, you mentioned that eBoard was concerned about spending so much money right away when we might have other expenses coming up. You mentioned the bookkeeper bylaw, about how much money would that cost, and are there other places that could come from, and are there other ways we'd be spending this money if we didn't give it to Spree Day?
Katie.
The bookkeeper would come out of next year's cumulative surplus, not this year's cumulative surplus, because you've already paid them for it. And typically around 30,000 rolls into cumulative surplus at the end of the year, give or take.
Right.
I will to that is and give them the full amount. That's all.
There's a motion on the floor to increase this allocation to $15,000. Is there a second? Second by Julia. Are there any points?
Can we say one more thing?
Questions on the wording?
I just had one more thing. I'm just curious as to see what if all of a sudden everybody says no. What is your plan B, just in case?
We haven't come up with plan B because we've been very optimistic about this. Just being honest. Just because, you know, like we've had the whole Spree Day changing. So when Sammy and I went into this, we were like, we want to go big because we want this to be, like, we're bringing back old tradition as well, like maybe grease ball and tug of war against classes and stuff like that, where we came up with a great t-shirt design. We're getting more t-shirts for more people to have. We're getting more great prizes. And we're getting great acts, and also we split up the days throughout where there's like certain entertainments that draw people in. So if people do go off campus and do their own thing, whatever they're doing, they will have to come back because that entertainment's so big that they're gonna be like, oh, we want to go back. So to have a great act at the end as well, to end off Spree Day, would be really good.
So on this list, is this currently you have 30,000 already in budget?
No, this is an estimate of
how much it would cost.
Yes.
For entertainment.
Are there any other points of discussion with regards to this amendment? Lori?
So, we've all asked Sammy and Sally questions. Now is the time where everyone can talk about their opinion on the piece. So, as the board said, we feel like it's a lot of money for something that, I appreciate you guys' efforts, number one, because you guys seem really enthusiastic, a lot of energy, new ideas, like you said, your mud wrestling and whatnot. The only thing that kind of bothers me to a certain extent is that if we give the full 15,000, it's not like, it sounds similar to the fall festivals, or spring festivals, concerts. The fall, spring concerts, whatever they were, in years past, that SOP threw on, and that they were kind of boom or bust. And there's nothing you can really do to control it. And so we're actually taking, quite a big risk allocating this money. On the flip side, I agree wholeheartedly that since there's that kind of old spree day debacle getting moved and the student body overwhelmingly said we want it back, we kind of have an obligation to try to make it better. So that's kind of how I see the two kind of sides to it. And I would like to hear everyone else's opinion.
Katie?
So we used to do big concerts and Spree Day on the same day. It became clear through student opinion that they wanted them kind of separate. So that's what we did. We had MEC and we had Spree Day separate. That worked for a while. We had some great successes there. Gym Class Heroes, Jason Derulo. And then it became not super successful, which is a risk that happens with any concert, any event you're putting on, whether it be a big concert or something small in the grind. So I know in the future, this is the route that y'all want to go, having a big concert on Spree Day. Next year you have the option of combining MEC and Spree Day back together. But this year, there's a gap in terms of making what Sally and Sammy are proposing happening with what they have in the budget. There's a gap that needs to be filled. I think you take a risk anytime you fund anything. It could be super successful, it could be not successful. You did the Guster concert, you gave $15,000 to Spree Day to have Guster 4 years ago. It was really successful. You gave $5,400 to City Rod this past year. Not successful. There's always going to be a risk. It's always going to be a risky situation, and I would hate to have the possibility of it being a failure scare you off from what could be a really great reward. I think whatever it may be, it's going to be risky. And in terms of your cumulative surplus, you still have money there. If something comes up in the next 6 weeks, there's still $15,000 left there for other projects. You still have grants, you still have equipment, you still have a little bit of money left in mid-year. So there's money available for projects that maybe come before council, but I would just hate to see you be scared off of a risk because it might fail. You've had great successes and you've had failures, but you're gonna have to roll the dice. Anytime you do any program, you're rolling the dice, so.
And we promise you guys, we've been meeting like nonstop, emailing, texting, everything with President Angel, Mark McKenna and everything. Like every cent, dollar, we're using it really wisely. We're being very considerate, and also we're also still keeping Spree Day tradition and bringing back old tradition as well, so old and new together.
And the Spree Day committee is also working really hard, like they're trying to get, vendors to contribute food, they're working on different forms of entertainment, working on hospitality, so they're working hard as well. So
we're going to do like a mini taste of Worcester as well, so people who don't want to eat the other food can have another option as well. So yeah, we're being really wisely with our money, but we need more.
Rebecca?
I was just wondering, if we give you this full amount, I really think that the choice of who plays should be up to the student body. Is there any way that we can give it to you with the condition that you send out an email to the
We will send out a survey.
And then pick the artist based on whatever comes back?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so that can be included in the
That
contract?
could. First, we will have to work through this amendment. Then we can move back to the main motion of the allocation and include other amendments if we so feel the need to do so. Hannah? No? Are there any other?
So in the survey that you'd send out if you were to receive the full allocation, you'd be able to put all of these groups that are confirmed that they could play. Okay.
Wait.
Can I
we're already, yeah, once there's no other points of discussion, we'll have to move into voting. That's what we're doing here. Well,
This is a question for Katie. Okay, would this would just be like any other spree day concert where people can just walk in and listen? You would have to have like a wristband and do anything like that. Right? Because sometimes I know like.
No, it would be like any other spree day where there's a fenced in area and you have to check in at the check-in point, just like every other spree day and any other concert.
Julia?
Are we only talking about the survey right now? Because we have to approve that amendment first. I'm confused at what's happening.
Right, let's try to keep our points of discussion germane to the amendment at hand, that being increasing the allocation to 15,000 from 7,000. Rory?
No.
No. All right. Are there any other points of discussion? Rory?
Wait, so we're talking about increasing it and not about adding on the clause that they have to send out a survey? I thought that was the specific thing we are addressing right now.
The initial motion, if we were, 45 minutes back in time, was to allocate $7,000. The proposed amendment is to increase that allocation to 15,000.
Okay.
That's the motion that we're discussing that's at hand right now.
Okay.
If council so votes to approve the amendment, we'll then move back to the original motion. We're voting to approve an amendment, not to allocate funding. That's the question right now.
Okay.
So we would have to approve the amendment, then move back and have a full vote on approving the $15,000 request. Jennifer?
Is it possible to make it like conditional that if they get a large enough consensus of everybody who, like people who want to see a certain app, then they can get the money, but if they don't, can we like rescind the?
You can do that after we approve the amendment.
That's why.
That's what clause has to be done. Yeah.
Right. This is a question of amount to be allocated, not funds to be allocated. Once we move past the amendment, then we'll move into the question of allocating funding. Right. All right, are there any other points of discussion? Hannah?
Okay. Can I make a separate motion to amend I'm sorry.
Okay.
To amend the initial $7,000 allocation, this amendment would be to raise it with the condition that student surveys are respected, whereas the initial amendment, no, okay.
We'll have to vote on the amendment.
If this one fails, could I make that motion?
Theoretically, yes.
Okay. Think about it.
Rebecca?
I moved into voting for previous.
Motion to this question.
Yes.
All right, so before we move into voting on increasing this request to $15,000, I'd like, council to, as the board had, mentioned before, to put a lot of thought behind, the way that you're going to vote. We're increasing the request to $15,000. It's a lot of money, and it is kind of a big deal. If you think about it on a, down-to-earth personal basis, I've never had $15,000. So, think about the impact and the influence of this request that you're making. Also, as a council, I feel personally that our obligation is to make investments in, projects and initiatives and clubs that have, long-term positive effects and, influence and, help student life in general on, a day-to-day basis. The initial reason that I was cautious with regards to this request was that, it's for a one-day, 2-hour concert. And it's a lot of money to invest into, a single amount of time. And I feel that we have in part an obligation to, improve students' experiences at Clark, on the whole. and, you know, across, you know, a day-to-day, a week-to-week, and a month-to-month, and semester-to-semester basis. Yeah. Right.
There's no discussion after you're moving back to previous question, you just vote on
I'm
it.
in charge of that. Right. So, getting my point, I just like, you know, this is the largest request that we've seen this year, and I'd like you guys to give some thought to it. So we'll be moving into voting. All those in favor of increasing the, all those in favor of amending the allocation to,
You're voting on previous question. You're voting to end discussion and move directly into voting on the amendment.
all right.
That is the question at hand.
Okay.
Nope, you have to vote on previous question. There's no discussion and no amending a previous question.
Okay. All right, there's a motion for this question. All those in favor of moving into voting, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing as such, and one abstention. All right, so seeing as such, we'll be moving into voting on the amendment. All those in favor of increasing the allocation to $15,000, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Would all those voting nay please put their hand out so we can count it? 3 nays. All right, are there any abstentions? 2 abstentions. Seeing as such, this motion passes.
No.
Or,
How many, because they would have to abstain.
You have to abstain.
Oh,
2 abstentions. 4 abstentions. Lori.
Nick, how much to speak fast?
Yeah. Essentially, on the meter, so how many people were there? 3. So how many?
If anybody, whoever voted yes, please put their hand out or up. Yep.
Yeah, so 3 plus 3 is 6, it's not.
All right, seeing as such, this amendment has passed. So now we'll be moving into the actual allocation of funds. So, Will. All right, so the motion now on the table is to allocate $15,000 to the 3-day committee. Is there a second?
You're back to the main motion, which is now allocating $50,000 from the community surplus to screen.
Alright, so now this is the money's going to a real place. Now, if someone's so inclined to make a second to put like some condition on it, now's your time. If this vote passes, where 50,000 goes. This is where Shushu's big spiel comes in. Please tell your opinions. That's why you're on council for, and everyone's got to make their mind, and let's have a nice discussion on hands up.
Shailene.
I guess I just feel that as much as council, I believe, should be invested in infrastructure and all of that, I believe as a representative of my constituents, I don't think they believe that, and I think that they would go for all the money to Spree Day. And so as a person, while I do feel this is a large amount that could be spent on, I think maybe more important or long-lasting projects, I think that as a representative, I have to vote for this.
Will.
I feel that Jalen has a point, but I would also like to, I really think that we should hash it conditional on what the survey feedback is, because if we get very low survey feedback and nobody's really interested in this act, I think that it would be a waste of money.
Katie.
2 things. One, if you want to move forward this condition of a survey type thing, you really can't include language that you will automatically go with the person who gets the most votes, because how it works is we will send a bid to them saying, we would like you to come and perform for $30,000 on this date at this time. And they can say no to that. So if they say no to that, if you have put a condition on to Spree Day that they have to go with the top choice and the top choice says no, or all of a sudden books another date at Palladium or whatever, then they're, you know, in trouble. So I mean, I think if you wanted to put a condition that they, you know, use the survey as a guide in terms of who they bid on in order, that, you know, that's cool, but you can't say like all or nothing, because then they're going to have this money sitting there that they're not going to be able to use at all. Additionally, if they don't use this money, if everybody on this list becomes unavailable, you know, they will work on a plan B, and whatever is left in their budget will roll back into your cumulative surplus at the end of the year.
Julia?
I think it's important to keep in mind what Katie said, that we shouldn't be focusing so much on the fact that it could fail, because anything we could possibly do could fail. And I think both as a representative of the senior class and as the president of the Student Alumni Relations Committee, that this is a good and sustainable investment. I think that revamping Spree Day is really, really important. It's a good way to get our alumni involved in the Clark community. It's a good way to send off the senior class. And it doesn't look like we have anything better to do with this money. So I just don't see any negative.
Okay. Are there any other, Alex?
Yeah, again, I mean, I haven't been here for Spree Day, but Spree Day is the one thing all my constituents have like consistently told me it needs to be a big thing, it needs to be better. I mean, I've heard really bad things about previous Spree Days, and it sounds like if we don't do this, we're just expecting something low quality.
Ray?
Yeah, I'd like to sort of piggyback on what Alex said, due to the fact as though I am the one who made the motion to amend the first motion. It's just that obviously, unlike most of you guys here, I haven't been at my first Spree Day yet, and it will be coming soon. And if you guys know, if you guys read the Scholar, I know no one really does. But like, if you guys read it, it has a Spree Day on College Prowler. It says it's like one of the most things that most students are like expectations are high for. It's like one of the things to look for at Clark. And I agree with the fact that as leaders of our constituents, we should be responsible for making the daily lives, day by day, like lives of our constituents better, and improve that by whatever decisions we make in this hall. And I do agree with that 100%. But at the same time, I think when it comes to Spree Day, it's more than a day-to-day thing. It's like a year event where like it's like a day where like after like you're like old and like in your 40s, like you can still talk about like, great times we had at this Spree Day, that great concert when you were like, because hey, back in my day, we had this great singer named Jason Derulo who came and like he sang his heart out. It's like I don't know. It's just that, and especially I think it should be like sort of like a memory lane down for the seniors right now, because it is your last Spree Day. If you don't have it for the 5th year, but like it's just it is down memory lane, and I hope like this whole thing works out.
Savannah?
Yeah, seeing as there is $80,000 in the cumulative surplus fund, and seeing as there has been so much conflict around Spree Day, I do think that it would be a good idea to up the amount and make this really great.
Lori?
So for all intents and purposes, it's $30,000. And it's 80,000, but we have to keep 50,000.
Oh, 50,000, okay.
And we can't spend that unless like.
So there's still
disaster.
$15,000 after.
Yeah, so we've got, for practical purposes, we have practically 31,000. So this is approximately half, not just saying that.
All right, are there any amendments, any motions, anything? Rebecca?
Sorry, can I just make a?
Yep.
I just want to remind everyone that we have spring and fall concerts to bring in big name artists, and Spree Day already has a huge budget from the school. I just want to remind everyone that I do not want to be irresponsible with the money that we have. I also just wanted to remind everyone that the money that we have in cumulative surplus can go towards future endeavors. Last year we had a large amount of cumulative surplus left over, and that allowed us to start new initiatives at Clark University. I know some of you are freshmen, so you might not know about this, but we did a lot of really great things last year by having money saved up in our, in the cumulative surplus. And No, I just want that to also be able to be a possibility in the future. And if we spend this large amount of money, that also means that in the future, we'll probably still be expected to provide a similar amount of money for every spree day. And I think that is really important to realize that this, right now, what we do is setting the standard for the future of Clark University. So everyone knows.
Rory?
Just to play devil's advocate, not really reflective of my own opinions, but I don't think council really has a obligation to save money in the community surplus. It's nice for the people down the road, but like it's not our job. That's our money, and that's money for this year. So it's not really it's nice to have everything, and like I said, we are going to have to take from that in the future. But I wouldn't say it's our obligation.
Mike?
I have a question. I think it's for Katie. The spring concert, who is it? What is it? And is it competing with you guys? Do you feel like it's a competition between the two, if there's two musical acts?
There's not a spring concert. So we used to do Spree Day, and we used to have a big concert and like a carnival. We split it up into a big concert in the fall and a carnival in the spring. What this year's Spree Day committee is proposing is combining them again. So it's not something that would continue every year, because if this is successful this year, one would assume that future Spree Day committees would instead of having a fall concert and a Spree Day, combine those two budgets to have one large event with the concert. So this is not something they would ask for next year, because they would have a larger budget if they were to access the MEC budget as well.
Ray?
My motion to previous question.
All right, so the motion on the table, previous question. Is there a second? Second by Becca. Questions to the board or points of discussion? Seeing as there are none, we'll be moving and voting. All those in favor of moving.
This is for previous question.
Yeah.
Could you repeat the previous question?
You're voting to end discussion on this matter and move immediately into voting on the main motion.
Yep. So all those in favor of moving the previous question, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions? Seeing as such, this motion passes. So next we'll be moving into voting. All those in favor of allocating $15,000 from cumulative surplus to the Spree Day committee, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions?
Call for division of the vote.
So there's been a call for division. Rebecca, would you please do a roll call vote?
All right. Rory?
Abstain.
I would just like to remind everyone before we do this. Okay, point of information is that if you abstain, your vote does not count as a no or a yes. It will just pretend it's not there. So we're trying to just so everyone knows that. Rebecca, no. Raymond?
Yeah.
Julia?
Yay.
Sally? Oh. Jennifer?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
William?
Abstain.
Tyler?
Nay.
Scott?
Yes.
Shaylin?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Delay?
Yes.
Hannah?
Abstain.
Sammy?
Abstain.
Radhika? Alex?
Yay.
Brittany?
Yes.
Savannah?
Yes.
Lauren?
No.
Alright.
All right, seeing this case, this motion passes. Now, I know I did speak, speak negatively against, your guys' request, but I do, greatly respect all the work that you guys have put into it. So, I'm really hoping for the best about it going forward. Seeing that is the last point of business, are there any last words? Katie.
Can I please see Ray, Shaylin, and Sammy at the meeting?
Rebecca.
Could I see everybody who's running for the campaign after the meeting? Or before?
All right, are there any motions to,
I didn't have a motion, I just had a word.
all right, go for it.
I just wanted to let you guys know that on March 21st, which is a Thursday, there's going to be an alumni networking event in New York, and there's going to be a shuttle for undergraduate students that'll be leaving around 2 p.m. to go into New York, so it's pretty much an all-day commitment, but it's a really great opportunity to meet Clark alumni in the New York area, and if you're interested, contact Alumni Affairs, or just let me know.
What?
The 21st of March.
Can you just go? All right, Nick.
Election committee members after meeting.
We have a motion, Rebecca.
I move to
There's a motion on the floor to adjourn, is there a second by Savannah, questions to the board, report discussion? Seeing as no one needs to vote, all those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
All those with abstentions, motion carries. Recycle.